but it's more than bad advice. It's traditional advice. It's the way people are used to doing things. And we sometimes as humans accept the fact that we're doing something the way we're doing it because it's always the way we've done it. Kind of a trap in my opinion. But anyway, that's why I wrote this. And then I thought LinkedIn Live is a much more powerful approach than just a workbook. So I turned it into a series of 8 videos. And like I said, this is number 6. And I'd like to kind of start, let me set an expectation. It's going to be about 15 minutes of content, and then it's going to be about 15 minutes of available time for Q&A. We don't always use that Q&A time. Depends on how many questions there are. But I encourage you to ask questions. I think it's a mindset shift that I'm going to ask you to consider. Going out and looking for work has traditionally been done. I was a recruiter for 35 years and owner of an IT staffing firm. So I've seen this hiring process thing from so many different angles in so many different economies. So there's some breadth and depth to the context of my opinions and my failures and my mistakes. We can't forget about those. The mindset shift is, what if you were to tell yourself and convince yourself that the way that you're looking for work now is not the way that you should be looking for work? And I'm going to ask you to just think about this whole thing differently. So open up your minds a little bit, and some of it's going to be fighting your subconscious because some of this is in your DNA because you've been told this for so long and you've been doing this for so long. This is going to be a behavior shift, and it's going to require some inner work. Okay, not to get all foofy on you, but that's the way to begin. That's the way to think about this thing. A different way of thinking about hiring and getting hired. Just to give you some additional context, the recent stats that I saw just a little while ago were for every 100 resumes that goes out into an online portal, 2 of those resumes will be responded to. So there's a 2% response rate from online applications. That alone should tell you that there's got to be a better way. And I'm here to tell you that there is. So the other mindset shift, because frustration and anxiety and some anger actually are the predominant emotions that I see when people are frustrated and out of work or looking for work unsuccessfully. It's not your fault. Okay, you're not doing anything wrong per se. You're operating in a system that is broken. And I'll tell you as well that the system has been broken for all 35 years of my experience. So back into the mid-late 80s is when I entered into this space. Of course, the technology's changed a lot, and there was no online portal back then. We weren't even using the internet. We had a fax machine and a bunch of desk phones. But it was the same problem. It was the system is you send your resume to a human resources person or an administrative person, and currently it's might even be a robot. Probably is that makes the first pass. And then there are too many people in that process, in my experience. You know, sometimes 5, 6, 7 different people. I don't know why you'd need more than 2. And then you've got the politics of the system. People are in positions of entrenched power and control. And when you put someone in a position of entrenched power and control, it's very difficult to get them out of that position. It takes a lot more than convincing. I personally think that most companies should just break down their entire process and rebuild it from scratch. And I'm around if anybody wants to take me up on that, because I know I can do it. So when you're operating in a system that's broken, you have to find another system. You have to. It's not your fault in that you're in the system that everyone's telling you should be in. It is your fault in the sense that you're playing continuously in a broken system that's not even working for you. And so again, I reached a point, and I've had young adult kids. I've got 3, and I help them all with finding work, and I help them all starting their own companies. And what I discovered back then, 7, 8 years ago, was no one's teaching this stuff. The schools aren't teaching it. Companies aren't teaching it. There's no one out there to bridge the gap between getting out of high school or college and finding gainful employment. So that's why I wrote the presentation. And I think this particular episode called Be Decisive, I see a number of trends and it's not just today. Let's just say that all of this that I'm about to share with you has been happening since I started in the business 35 years ago or so. Um, it's 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 well, anyway. They led me to believe they all got jobs pretty quickly. They all got jobs for more money than they thought they were going to get, and then I started getting requests to help their friends. So it really opened up this world to me to suggest there's a whole body of people out there that need this information. So one of the things that this does, or I hope that it does for you, if you were to watch all 8 episodes, you don't have to watch all 8. They're standalone episodes. You don't need the context of the other 7 to get value out of any of the individual episodes. And they're short. Even if you do the Q&A, you're not going to be on for more than 30 minutes. They're bite size. I want this to give you a legitimate feeling of being able to take back control of your professional future. Because what I see, again, is people that are talking and writing in a way that leads me to believe that they feel like they have no control over their destiny, their professional destiny. And I've been in that situation a couple of times in my life, and I can't think of too many situations that are worse than feeling like you don't have control over your professional future. So that's hopefully one of the results of these exercises, is that you'll take back some control and you'll feel it. And that'll breed confidence, that'll breed clarity, and hopefully it'll breed decisiveness. Because I can't emphasize enough how important I think it is to be decisive. And we'll talk a little bit about what I mean by that and how to become more so. And then we'll open it up for Q&A if you have any questions at all. So the importance of decisiveness, I just can't overestimate the importance of decisiveness. It is the ability to make decisions, particularly with big important issues. And I would rank work as certainly in the top 5. Some might argue, depending on your spirituality and your family circumstances, that it's in the top 3. So it's a big one. And sometimes the weight of that decision on people's shoulders is too much for them to handle. And when you are in a situation like that, you're not always objective. If you're anxious or you're fearful or you're unclear, you're probably making some pretty important decisions from an emotional standpoint and not an objective standpoint. And I've done that before too, and making decisions, particularly important ones, from a position of anxiety or fear or a lack of clarity, you're going to get those wrong more often than not. At least that's been my experience. So being decisive is a skill. And so let's get into a little bit of how to become more decisive. One of my favorite exercises, and I do it to this day, and I do it with the same tools that I recommended 30 years ago, a pad of paper and a pencil. There's something, and I'm sure you could look it up from a psychological standpoint, there's something about writing things down on paper with a pencil that it has an impact on your subconscious. It makes things stick more. You remember things better. I can't explain it scientifically, but it's true. I know it to be the case. So, and whatever the decision is, but let's say for the purposes of this example, it's whether you're gonna take this or that, or do this way, or do this that way, and it's going to impact your fate. It's going to impact your fate, short term and long term. And I would say the things you want to do is you want to create a couple of columns. Let me just roll something here. So let's say you have 2 opportunities, and they're pretty close opportunities, job opportunities that you're expecting offers. Maybe you have an offer and you have to make a decision within the next day or 2. You just put them down, and each of them, underneath them, has 2 columns. One are things that you like about the opportunity, and the others are things that you don't like about the opportunity. And so you have 2 opportunities with 2 columns underneath each, what you like and what you don't like. And just, I would do this in a quiet space with no distractions. You're going to need your mind. You're going to need your subconscious for this. And I would start to just write down all the things you like and what you don't like. And then I would correlate them. You're going to have common likes and dislikes. And then you probably want to do some weighting of them as well. You might go 1 to 5, 1 being excellent, 5 being really bad, or important, I should say. 1 being very important, 5 being not important at all. And then you can weight all these decisions. And then you just go through the exercise, the tedious exercise of going down each of those columns. And it should be readily apparent to you when you finish that exercise, I should take this one over that one. What that brings to the exercise is clarity. Because again, back to one of my previous statements, this is an emotional thing. No matter how you slice it, it's so important, it's going to be emotional. What this exercise does is it brings you back to an objective state, okay? And that's what I would do that. I do that with any big decision that I make. I go through that exercise, and it brings me clarity every single time. So I know it's simple, and it sounds maybe childlike on some level, but you'll be surprised how powerful that exercise is. So that'll help you be decisive, and it'll help you with big decisions. The other thing that I would suggest is, and I do this too, and as humans, I don't know that this is a natural thing for us to do, which is to ask for other people's help. And I wouldn't involve too many other people, and I don't think it has. I'd shy away from relatives and family, and maybe even friends. I might go to colleagues that I know would do me a favor. The farther out on that friendship, family, loved ones thing you go out to colleague, the more objective you're going to get. But if you can't get anybody like that, use whoever you can use as long as you trust them, and ask them to be candid with you. And what I'm asking you to do is get the context of other people's opinions. Again, because you have a lower level of objectivity and you're a higher level of emotion in your decisions, it really is beneficial to get the opinions of other people. And I might suggest that you get 3. 1's better than none, but 3 I think will give you a good mix, and you can see common threads in the opinions of 3 people. So now you have a list of pros and cons with a weighted average on each one, and you have 3 opinions of people whom you trust. That's going to be very helpful. That'll bring you from indecisive to very decisive pretty quickly. You could get all that work done in a day. That would be possible. And now your peace of mind in making the decision just goes through the roof. It minimizes things like regret and wonder. Did I do the right thing? Oh my gosh, what am I getting myself into? That will kind of dissipate, almost disappear if you go through those 2 exercises. And I think the last point I want to make about be decisive is decisiveness is such a wonderful, hireable trait. All throughout this process, from introduction to acceptance and start date, the more that you can show that you're decisive, that you're not waffling when decisions need to be made along the process. When's the next interview? Who else am I going to interview with? How much money do you want? When can you start? What else do you have going on? Boom, 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 boom. You're given quick, crisp, clear, cogent answers. You're convincing. So there's all kinds of stuff going on in the background when you're decisive, but you're establishing during the interview process and dealing with recruiters, wherever you are in the stage. When other people think you're decisive, they're going to be more attracted to you. It's just human nature. Because think about it. If you're going to ask of something of someone and they're waffling around, they can't make a decision, and another person's like, yeah, let's do that. That's who I'm attracted to. So the more you can be decisive, the more hireable you become. So it's got kind of a double-edged sword of benefits, if you will. All right, that is the content and some of the context. Let me see if we have any questions here. Yeah, I do have some questions. How much time would you recommend it should take to decide to accept or to decline a job offer? Well, that's an interesting question in that I can come at that from a couple different angles. I would begin by saying as quickly as possible, back to my decisive comments. But I also would look at this and say, if I'm doing all my homework during the interview process, then I shouldn't have to waffle when it comes time to accept or decline a job offer. As a matter of fact, when I was a recruiter, I was beholden to me to make sure that 90% of the people that I made offers to accepted them. And that's because I did the work beforehand. I would say things like, look, if you have any more questions, let me go back to the client and get those questions answered. I'm not in this to rub your ego. You know, we're either going to get you what you want or we're not. But we know what you want because we've had those discussions. And I can't think of any other questions that I would need to ask. But if you have some, give them to me and I'll go get them answered. Right? So if you get to the job offer and you're not sure, you missed something. Right? So you got to look back on that experience. You got to be doing your homework the whole time. And in my experience, you have to nudge people to do their homework. Most people skip over steps and they want shortcuts and things like that. But I think your question is a good question, but I think the answer to the question is not after the question. The answer to the question comes before you ask the question so that you don't have to ask the question. Having said that, the longer you wait to accept, the more you're inviting competition. The more you're inviting someone else into the interview process. So be thorough and I would make your decision on the spot if it's possible. So now put yourself in a position where you can make that decision on the spot. Maybe the only variable is the amount of money that they're going to offer you. But I would have a minimally acceptable number as well. If they offer me $107,000 or more, I'm taking it. Even if it's 107, I'm taking it. Right? Now you've made the decision before you get back into that emotional state. I want to ask my boss for a raise, but I'm scared. How do I decide what to do? Yeah, that one's fraught with context as well. I mean, if you're scared to ask your boss for a raise, my contention would be you're working for the wrong guy. And I mean that sincerely. I'm not naive to think that everyone can have transparent conversations with their bosses about anything. That's not what I'm talking about. But if you can't talk to your boss about a raise because you're scared of his response, that's either a confidence problem or an environmental problem. You know, I was a boss for a long time. I am a boss. I've had bosses. It's been a while. But I was always comfortable talking to them about my performance, my compensation level, the expectations of what I should be doing, my future, my career path. I wouldn't work for someone that I couldn't have that conversation with. However, you know, you've asked the question and you're scared. So I would invite you to go ask. And this is how I would tell you to go about doing it. Make a case. Make a specific case as to why you deserve a raise. It doesn't have to do with how much anyone else is making. It doesn't have to do with what the market's doing. Make a case based on your performance and bring metrics to the conversation. Because if you come in and ask me for a raise and you don't have any supporting documentation or data, you're probably not going to get a raise, right? So make a case and be specific. Good luck. I have a big professional decision to make, and I'm on the fence because choosing wrong might ruin my career. What should I do? It's a similar question, I guess. I would go back and do everything I just talked about. That's what I would do, you know, because if you're on the fence, something is missing. You're missing a piece of information. You might be kidding yourself about something, maybe not. But I would suggest that you're missing a piece of information that you could have gotten in the process, and perhaps you can go back and get it. It also might be possible that you're just in this place where one decision is so much different than the other that you have to make it. You have to take a chance. You have to take a risk, but mitigate your risk by going back and getting whatever that missing piece of information is. Last one I have is I have an opportunity to make some serious money, but I have a moral conflict with the other person in the deal. Should I go for the dough? No. I mean, do what you will. It's up to you, obviously, but you're asking my opinion. I've had a couple of chances to make a lot of money by doing the wrong thing in my career, involving violating contracts, non-competes, talking to clients that I wasn't supposed to be talking to for 12 months. And I've been on the other end of that too. I've only sued one employee that left me, and that's because he stole all my stuff. It was literally a crime. I don't preclude people from going to work, but I would say to you that when you have the opportunity to reflect back on your life, these are the times in your life where leaving the money on the table and sticking to your moral compass, you'll really appreciate having done that. Peace of mind, an example to your kids, one of those subconscious little self-doubt demons that's in your head that you're just giving them fuel if you accept it. So if you have money that you're able to make by crossing a line, then you can make that same money by not crossing a line. That's what I would say. So again, hopefully that was helpful. I'm easy to find. I think what I would recommend for people is if you go to 7 Pillars Global, the number 7, PILLARS Global, GLOBAL.com. There's a grab an appointment button above the fold, and I offer a 30-minute free consultation to anyone who wants to take me up on it. And what we do in that 30 minutes is I ask you a few questions, get a sense of what your challenges are, what's got you stuck, and then I'll tell you whether I can help you. And if I believe I can, then I'll tell you how I can help you. And then if you choose not to take me up on my paid service, which we can talk about on that call, that's fine. I'm cool with that. I don't want to help anybody that doesn't want my help. And maybe you're not ready, and those are both fine. Come back when you're ready. I'll give you at least 2 actionable things to do, and I have a couple of free resources that I share with people to help them get unstuck and go deeper into what's holding them back. So you'll win on the call either way. And typically what I do with people is I usually coach people on an hourly basis, and I coach them over the course of about a month, maybe 3 hours max, individual sessions where I give you work to do, and then we re-up for the next hour, and we can carve that up however you want. But go on my LinkedIn profile. I got a YouTube channel with some pretty good free content on there as well. And, reach out whenever you want. Reach out whenever you want. Read what I've written on this topic and watch what I've videoed on this topic, and you'll make progress with that alone. That'll require more of your time and more work. What I would do for you is just get you where you want to go faster. That's what you'd be paying for. So reach out if you want. I hope you join me next Tuesday for episode 7. And then there'll be episode 8, and we'll conclude the series. All right. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.